and then go live. All right, we're live on X. Live on X and live on Locals. I couldn't get the Rumble Studio to get me onto YouTube today. So we're only on Locals and X at the moment. And let's see, how do I usually start this? Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the highlight of human civilization today with lesser technology than usual. If you're watching on X and you're saying to yourself, hey, I don't believe your microphone is attached to your device, you'd be right. But it is attached to my other device where I'm doing a Locals feed at the same time. So a little bit of a technology hiccup this morning. Anyway, if you'd like to elevate your experience to levels that nobody can understand with their tiny, shiny human brains, all you need for that is a cup or mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine at the end of the day, the thing that makes everything better. It's called the simultaneous sip, and it happens now. It's all working now. So good. So what about the flying cars, huh? Well, you wouldn't believe it, but we've reached a point in history where the only thing that's keeping you from having a flying car experience is the government and a lack of infrastructure, because you need a place to land all those flying cars. But there are two companies, Joby and Archer, who both have flying cars, and they're meant for like getting you from city traffic to the airport. So that would be the first application. But you need a place to land and a place to pick up your flying car. You wouldn't have your own. Probably won't make sense to own your own flying car. But you'll be able to skip all that traffic to the airport with technology that already exists. All you'd have to do is use your app and have an Uber take you to your flying car and then to the airport. Well, here's some news that I have to admit I saw this coming. I did not predict it in any public way, so I get no credit for it whatsoever, but privately, I promise you, I saw this one coming. I think a few of you are going to say the same thing. You're going to say, you saw it coming. Scott, we all saw this coming. The president of El Salvador got his government to approve an indefinite presidential re-election so he can run for office as many times as he wants. And each term is now expanded to 6 years. So did El Salvador just become a dictatorship? I don't know. What else would you call it? But here's the weird thing. I've often said, publicly and otherwise, that the best form of government would be a dictator who was just really good at his job and wanted his country and his people to do well. But a dictator. He would have to be highly capable and actually, not want to rip off the country too bad and kill too many people. But if you could find that person, it would be the ideal form of government. Now, because Bukele in El Salvador has done such a marvelous job of turning around the country, but even better, being the best example you've ever seen of publicity. Oh my goodness, does he understand social media and publicity and how to work the system and how to work with and for Trump to make his life easier. So it's sort of a mixed bag. if you said to me, is it good for El Salvador to have a dictator? I would say, of course not, because the more power he has, no matter who it is, the more power he has, the more likely there's going to be corruption. On the other hand, have you ever seen anybody that you would more want to be your dictator? So it's sort of a weird situation. It's the thing you would least want to say, which is an elected president figuring out some workaround to become a dictator or a king, whatever. So that would be the worst thing. On the other hand, if you had to have somebody be your dictator, he would be probably in everybody's top three based on what we've seen so far. So I do not approve of it, but we'll keep an eye on it. Well, the economic data for the country was not nearly as good as anybody hoped. So the number of jobs, was added in July was way less than expected, according to Fox. The non-farm payrolls were lower, private non-farm payrolls that missed, manufacturing payrolls that missed, unemployment rate, not bad. So unemployment rate is still all right-ish, but we're not adding jobs. And the average hourly earnings actually even better than expected. So weirdly, people are earning more, but there are fewer jobs being created. And then also we got news that our prior months have been revised. So in May, it was reported that we had 144,000 new jobs, and apparently the real number is 19,000. Doesn't that sound a lot like the Biden administration, where there'd be this giant successful number, and then if you wait a little bit, you can always tell that it's going to be revised down. So then also June was revised down from 147,000 jobs added to, oh, no, we meant 14,000. All right. Now, one thing I can tell you with certainty is that the data that they use to figure out how many jobs are collected is kind of hard to do. I mean, it's really hard to do. How in the world would you know how many jobs are added? Like, what would you do? Just call a bunch of people? It's a really tough thing to actually monitor. So it might signify that there is some change in how the numbers are collected. That's possible. So I would wait to find out why it was revised down. If it's a signal that there's a permanent shift in how the numbers are calculated, and then it stays consistent, well, I'd be happier knowing that we had better numbers. So we might be heading in the right direction there. We'll see. But you would expect that if the labor market looks like it's starting to weaken, that maybe too late Jerome Powell will have to lower interest rates to stabilize the country. So I'll tell you, nobody really knows anything about economics, including the economists, because we really can't tell the difference between good news and bad news. So when you see a story like, oh, the labor market is having some problems, so that's bad. But wait, the unemployment rate doesn't look that bad. But wait, if the unemployment levels don't look so good, then interest rates will go down, and that's good. Nobody knows anything. There's something you can say about everything, it's good or bad. Well, Trump has announced that he's going to reinitiate the nationwide presidential fitness test. So apparently that's been in action since President Johnson. I certainly remember it. In my youth, you'd go to gym class, and then you would be tested to see if you can do, so many sit-ups and push-ups and stuff. And I guess it was Obama who got rid of that, replaced it with something I never heard of, so I'm not sure that was useful. A big revision is due to some state not making the data cutoff. Oh, interesting. So they do an estimate until a state hits the cutoff? Maybe. That sounds very Dilbert-like, so I'm inclined to believe it. All right. So Trump signed an executive order, and he's putting famous WWE wrestler Triple H in charge of it. And it's going to direct the council to develop strategies to improve the fitness of the young people in America. And it's going to address the widespread epidemic of declining health and physical fitness. I did see some people speculate that it was really because we didn't have a good military, and if we don't hypnotize our youth to get more fit, we won't be able to recruit enough soldiers if we need them. I don't know if that's the main reason, but it's a reason. I would put it in the mix. Yeah, we would be a lot safer if our young people were physically fit, for in case the fight comes. You never know. And I guess RFK Jr. is going to be in charge of some part of this, so that the face of it will be this wrestler guy, Triple H. I don't know much about him, but he sounds awesome. So I have to say that this is one of those things that I had been critical of Trump about. I was critical that he was not setting a good example of fitness, but he's losing weight, he's golfing, he's healthier than just about anybody I know his age, and now he is bringing the right people into the mix to work on our health. So I'm going to revise my grade from, I think he was a D minus, and now he's at least an A minus, possibly heading for an A. We'll see, but it's the right thing to do. Trump also issued this ultimatum to the big pharma. So he told them that if they don't lower our drug prices in America to match the prices of other countries, which are much, much lower, that he will do bad things to them. What is he going to do? He's going to complain they've been freeloading for too far on America, and Americans are demanding lower drug prices. And if they don't do it before the end of September, he says he's going to send Secretary Kennedy after him. So do you think that'll work? Do you think it's going to work that just threatening them to massively lower their prices for America and raise their prices in third world countries? Do you think that'll work? Well, they got a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of lobbyists and a lot of congressional people that they kind of own money-wise. So I'd be surprised if that works. But Trump has surprised us all, right? Making things work that you'd think would never work. Have you noticed how good my concentration is? It's like I don't even know there's a cat putting his little cat face in my face while I'm doing a live broadcast. It's like it's not even happening. Ignore the tail. All right, well, I'll go on. Now there's nobody who's watching it on video who can even pay attention to what I'm saying. You're all watching to see if the cat scratches me or takes over the show. Well, he's definitely taking over the show. Yeah, Gary is the alpha cat. All right, so we'll see if the pharma prices go down. So there's a possibility that if he gets any kind of benefit at all, that Trump will be able to say, I lowered your energy prices, your egg prices, and your pharma prices, and I lowered your taxes for some people. That's a pretty good argument, don't you think, for Republicans going into the midterm? If he gets that, they can say, these are real things. We lowered all these prices. Better than nothing. Well, we all heard that We all heard that Kamala Harris is not going to run for governor of California. Um, and no surprise, she has a new book that's coming out soon called 107 Days. And that's how long she had to prepare to run for president. So, first of all, that's the worst title for a book, 107 Days. Um, Secondly, have you noticed that Democrats don't even know what social media is? Because when they try to make these videos that they hope will go viral on social media and give them lots of free press, that they do something so cringy awful that you can't even believe you saw it. And she did that with one of her videos for her book. It was cringy awful. And why is 107 Days a bad title for a book? Why is this cat in my mouth? Cat, get in my mouth. It's because it tells you how inconsequential she was, and it reminds you that she was sort of picked for the job as opposed to earning it. So the 107 days is now something she should emphasize. That just makes you think negative thoughts. So yes, she's got a new book, and she claims it will talk about her behind-the-scenes experiences leading to the shortest presidential campaign in modern history. Now, would you brag about that? The shortest presidential campaign in modern history? Because it really just sounds like she was unsuccessful, which, she was. All right. So, here's some more. I'm collecting all these for every show, which would be the news stories, which are in the category of Democrats realizing that their team is terrible. So, News Nation, Chris Cuomo, he was having people call in to say what they were wrong about. So it was sort of a general, tell me what you thought was true that you were wrong about. Because Chris himself has admitted he's been wrong about a number of things. Not everything, but a few things. And what happened was a lot of the people who called in said that what they were wrong about was Trump. And that, so one of the main themes of people who just decided to call in was that they had a better opinion of Trump now than they used to. So that's bad for Democrats. And then CNN's Harry Enton was pointing out that Texas, if it redistricts, which I think is likely, they could gain 5 seats in the House, and 5 seats would be the difference between maybe winning and losing control of the House in the midterms. So it would be a really big deal if Texas does that and adds 5 to the Republicans. But, as you might imagine, Governor Newsom of California said if you do that redistricting, California is going to do it too. And maybe we'll add 5 Democrat seats and cancel you out. To which I said, when was the last time the Democrats had access to a weapon, a political weapon, and didn't use it? So are you telling me that California, no matter what Texas does, are you telling me that California could redistrict and gain 5 seats, which would be enormous, and you're telling me that they had not already decided to do that? What kind of Democrats are they? Is there a new kind of Democrat that doesn't use every single weapon that's possible? I don't know. So anyway, if Texas does that, that's not good for Democrats. So here's a little persuasion lesson. You ready for this? It's a communication/persuasion lesson. So Hakeem Jeffries, who's sort of a leader on the Democrat side, don't step on that. he was talking about Trump being a wannabe king, and he said this in public. He goes, "Democrats will never bend the knee to a wannabe king." Now he said that after he'd said, "Hey, don't chew up my cables." After he said that the corporations and the colleges were bending the knee, and no, 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 you can't do that. Um, so, would you have used that sentence? Democrats will never bend the knee to a wannabe king. Well, here's what's wrong with it. The words say what he wants to say, but people are going to have a visual image that pops into their head immediately upon seeing that. They're going to see a picture of Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats kneeling to Trump. Now, his message is that they're not going to kneel to Trump. But if I told you don't think of an elephant, every one of you would think of an elephant. The visual happens automatically. So he creates a visual of the Democrats surrendering and bowing to Trump, who is dressed as a king. That's what you imagine. Now, you're not going to imagine the words never and wannabe. You'll just remember a king, and you'll remember that they're on their knees. You won't remember that he said we'll never do it, and you're never going to remember that the king was a wannabe president or wannabe king. So, when you are communicating, you should be communicating visually and not verbally. Trump does this perfectly. He communicates in visual language. So here's what he doesn't say. People are not going to cross our border if I'm president. Weak, non-visual. He says, build a wall. Well, but we want some people to come through. Put a door in the wall. He's visual and positive all the time. So it's not an accident, by the way. It is not an accident. Trump just knows how to do this right, and Hakeem Jeffries could not have been worse because he painted a picture exactly the opposite of what his message was. Well, have you heard about the burn bags? I mentioned this. So there's some bags that the government uses to put their most top secret documents in to be destroyed. It's called a burn bag, and a burn bag with unburned stuff was found in a secret locked room somewhere at the FBI. And now we have them, and we're seeing the shocking new things coming out of them. The burn bag. You know who else is in the burn bag? Powell. I think Jerome Powell is in the burn bag. Trump put him in the burn bag. You know who else is in that burn bag with Powell? Colbert. Colbert's in the burn bag too. But Colbert doesn't mind being in there with just Jerome Powell. You know why? Because Colbert is used to having a small audience. Well, there you go. Put him in the burn bag. Anyway, so now we've learned some things. According to that burn bag, there's more stuff that we haven't seen, but the stuff we have seen is pretty shocking. George Papadopoulos points out that there are 14 pages missing from a bunch of stuff we just got, the declassified Durham Index. So every time we get some answers, there are more questions. What happened to the 14 pages? I saw a post on X by Hans Menke, and he says, this is the official version of how we supposedly know that Russia hacked the DNC. All right. So we were all told that Russia hacked the DNC, and we know it. Like that, if you talk to CNN, they'll say, well, that's just a fact. We know Russia hacked the DNC. Do you know how we know that? Well, as Hans points out, Democrat operatives working at the tech firm CrowdStrike say that it was Russia. But when they're under oath, they did not they admitted they don't know. So let me say it again. There's a Democrat, very biased tech organization called CrowdStrike. They were the ones who were asked to look at it, and they said it was Russia. But when they were under oath, they admit they don't know. So that's the source. And then the FBI says it was Russia because CrowdStrike said so. Now, CrowdStrike did say so, except under oath, according to Hans. And then the intelligence community, they also say it was Russia who hacked the DNC because the FBI said so. So, I mean, they're not going to doubt the FBI. And then CrowdStrike confirms that it was Russia because the intelligence community said so. Did you catch that? This is the standard trick you see from the left all the time. They start a rumor, and then other people sign on to the rumor, and then the original person who started the rumor looks at the other people who say it's true, even though they were the source of people saying it's true. And they say, well, obviously it's right because look at these people. Look at the intelligence community. Unbelievable. John Solomon tells us that we've got this smoking gun evidence now that Hillary was behind the Russia collusion hoax. But now that we've seen inside the so-called Durham Annex, and my first question is, I can't believe that wasn't on any digital source. They had to find it in a burn bag, really? And he says this. This is the important part of what I'm going to say. So John Solomon says, if it is authenticated, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about, there's a specific message in there that would be very damning if it's real. And we had never seen it before until this week. And that message says that George Soros's team, one of their top team members on the Soros organization, knew about the Clinton plan to do a Russiagate hoax 4 days before the FBI opened up a probe. So that would suggest that now we know that Obama, Brennan, Comey, and Clinton and Soros organization, at least one person in it, knew that this was a hoax and knew it was coming, and may have been, part of it. So, let's see, what else have we got here? I think I wrote down the actual message that was, the provocative one. All right, so allegedly, there's a July 27th, 2016 message that has now been surfaced from somebody called Leonard Bernardo. And he's the Soros, high-ranking Soros guy. He's like way up in the organization, or at least he was then. And he's writing to somebody, and I think I'm going to read it to you because my take is I'm not convinced this is real. There's something about it that's just a little too much on the nose. So I want to see if you get that vibe. Hi, HRC, meaning Hillary Clinton, approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. That should distract people from her own missing email. See, it's so specific. It's like exactly what you suspected, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level. Now, that's a weird choice of words. So that part is another flag. The point is making the Russian play a U.S. domestic issue. Say something like a critical infrastructure threat for the election. Critical infrastructure threat. So he's talking about how to run this hoax. Say it's a critical infrastructure threat for the election. To feel menace, since both POTUS and the vice president have acknowledged the fact the IC would speed up searching for evidence that is regrettably still unavailable. So here he is admitting that there's, not evidence. However, there seems to be signs that the Russian intelligence penetrated, and he's got some gobbledygook words I don't understand. They appear hardly skilled, incompetent, bumbling idiots. Trump, somebody called them. In absence of direct evidence, CrowdStrike, there's CrowdStrike, and Threat Connect will supply the media. In other words, he's saying directly that these Democrat-leaning tech organizations will feed the media with bullshit, and then it will just sort of become fact after that. And GRU, the Russians, will hopefully carry on to give more facts, meaning that Russia probably would do some interference kind of things, because I think they traditionally do, and then that would bolster the hoax. Does that sound like a real message to you? Or does it sound like somebody made one up with the knowledge of what we'd want to hear? Because it's really on the nose. Now, if it's real, so I agree with John Solomon that you need that authentication level before you get too excited about it. If it's real, then it looks like the entire hoax and who's connected to it, we know it all now. We know that there was a legitimate attempt to overthrow the government, and we know all the people and what they did about it, which is blowing my mind that it has moved, in my opinion, is moved from allegation to fact. Would you say that? I was always open to the possibility that maybe people just got caught up in things, or maybe they believed the Russians were behind it. But it seems super, super clear now that it was always designed as a hoax, and everybody who was involved in it knew it was a hoax, and that it was intended for the overthrow of the government. Unbelievable. And they're still walking free. What? So my brain is not being able to hold the fact that they're still free, and we know this much. Is there something I don't know? I don't know. But then you've got the Washington Post, according to Aaron Mate from the Gray Zone. He's pointing out that the Washington Post is misrepresenting the story that we're talking about. And he said, I guess the Washington Post indicated that the FBI looked into the allegations and didn't find anything. But the real story is that they never looked into it because they didn't want to look into it. So that's a pretty big difference. Looked into it and found nothing versus declined to look into it. So Washington Post, according to Aaron Mate, doing their thing to mislead the public, as is their history. Anyway, so Trump, being Trump, he posted a meme on Truth Social that made its way over to X. And it was a meme of all the different people that Hillary is alleged to have murdered. Now, you've probably seen it. It's a very long list of people who were close to the Clintons and seem to have mysteriously died. And many of them were in a position that they could have hurt the Clintons, and yet they suspiciously died. And that would include people like Seth Rich and JFK Jr. who went down in his plane. Now, it could be just a whole bunch of coincidences because they knew so many people. If you know enough people, and the Clintons probably knew like 1 million people, some number of them are going to be dying when they shouldn't be dying. So maybe it's a coincidence. However, now having seen what we've seen from the Russia hoax, the Russia hoax thing is as bad as murdering dozens of people. Do you agree? Because it's literally an attempt to overthrow the country. As horrible as it would be if somebody, hypothetically, had murdered dozens of people, if you had to choose which one, an overthrow of the government, or to prevent it, you would know that a few dozen people would be murdered that didn't have it coming. you would probably choose a few dozen people being murdered. So my point is that the things we know that Hillary almost certainly did, which is try to overthrow the government, is worse than the allegation that she may have murdered dozens of people to get to her current position. So I'm actually, as of today, I'm changing my opinion. I believe that the Hillary kill list was just sort of a fun political thing to talk about because it was funny. I now think that some number of them were murdered. I don't know which ones, and I wouldn't say necessarily all of them, but she's definitely capable of murder. So if you had any question about whether she'd be capable and or she had a reason, I think those are both answered. She had a reason. She's definitely capable. And she would have connections to people who would be experts at doing exactly that. Because it's alleged that she partnered with the CIA, Brennan and others. The CIA were pretty sure murdered a prior president and got away with it. So is there any reason to believe that they wouldn't help her murder a few more people? No reason to believe it, because they know they can get away with it. They're experts at doing it and getting away with it. So I'm going to go on record as saying I don't know who she may have killed, but it seems likely that some of those allegations are real. And I say that entirely because now that you've proven that she could do something that's far worse, and she did, it's easy to believe she may have done the lesser crime of killing dozens of people. There's a report that Mike Pompeo, when he was the CIA director, secretly granted Adam Schiff access to raw intelligence logs and communications out of a small room in Langley so that Adam Schiff could try to overthrow the government. This is from James O'Keefe of OMG. James O'Keefe is reporting this. Yeah. So O'Keefe says, I'm not sure I understand this next part. He says, in other words, the handwritten notes by John Brennan, which I don't think we've seen all of them, which DNI John Ratcliffe declassified in October 2020, confirming Obama's treachery, were concealed from the American people by CIA Director Mike Pompeo. And that's when they were going after Flynn and Papadopoulos. So it sounds like Mike Pompeo has some questions to answer. Yeah, apparently I saw an account called the Intel Skiff. There were some thumb drives that have been discovered that we don't know what's on them yet, but that might be interesting. I don't know if that's real. And apparently Biden, when he was vice president, was the first person to bring up the Russia-Trump connection hoax. So according to Just the News, then President Joe Biden publicly linked Trump to Putin right around the same time that Hillary had signed off on the Clinton plan. So that's further evidence that Biden was part of the conspiracy. Because at the time we know that Clinton was floating the idea and funding it, Biden won first. So yeah, they all knew what they were doing exactly. Now that you know that the how much planning and how many people were involved with the Russia hoax, how many of you believe that the Charlottesville Fine People March was organized by the racists and not our government? Do you all understand that Charlottesville was fake? Just like the Russian collusion hoax? Now, I don't know who was behind it specifically, but if you believe that that happened on its own, and then it only happened once, then that's a lot to believe. And once you've seen what the same cast of characters were willing to do, and then you see that Biden is the person they put out there to tell the lie, And you saw that he did it with the fine people. He did it with the Russia collusion thing. He was the first one. And then he runs for office on the fine people hoax. You don't think he was part of that? I mean, I don't have any evidence of that whatsoever. But to me, that would be a big coincidence if that happened on its own. I don't think there's any chance that the Fine People hoax or the Charlottesville event was an organic thing that a bunch of racists put together on their own. No, that was a government operation, and I think the purpose of it was to make it look like Trump supporters were, extra dangerous, so that they can do anything they wanted because it's extra dangerous. Well, the failing Democrats continue to eat each other. Now, MSNBC was mocking Cory Booker's theatrical performance the other day. And who was it? Claire McCaskill or somebody was mocking him. And Booker himself was also going after fellow Democratic senators for aligning too much with Trump. So Booker was mad at Democrats, but at least some of the Democrats on Morning Joe were mad at Booker. So this is pretty much the story of the Democratic experience right now. And then Jamie Dimon, who is either independent or Democrat, I don't know what he is, but he's the most important banker. He said the Democratic Party went too far in its focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, prioritizing ideology over practical solutions, per Bloomberg. Now, Jamie Dimon is like one of their smartest, most common sense kind of guys. If he ran for president, I think he'd have a really good shot. I don't think it'll happen, but if he did, he'd have a good shot. But I thought that Jamie Dimon said he wasn't going to quit his DEI focus, but he's acting like the Democrats made a mistake by having it as a focus. So I need a fact check on that. Did Jamie Dimon say get rid of DEI at his own company? Or is he just saying that Democrats should have left it alone? Or is he saying that he's implementing practical solutions, so that's fine, whereas the Democrats were just doing talk, and that wasn't good for anybody? I don't know. As you know, and Blaze Media is talking about this, is a Pew polling showing how starkly people are moving toward the Republicans. So males between the age of 18 and 29 went from 62% of them were in favor of Democrats to now 52% are in favor of Republicans. That's a really big switch. And those born after 1980 have made a dramatic shift, apparently. So the Democrats are dying because all the young people are moving the other direction. And it started as of the big swing started in June 2025. What happened in June 2025? Was that when Biden was falling apart? That was June, right? End of June, that's when the debate happened. So it could be that young people don't pay too much attention to politics, but when they see the coverage of the sitting president obviously being a moron on TV, maybe the first time they ever even watched him talk, and they probably saw the clips and they thought to themselves, oh shit, is that the team I say I'm on? That's my team? I'm on that guy's team. Can you show me the other team? Fight, fight, fight. And then a month later, Trump is jumping up from being shot and yelling, fight, fight, fight. Yeah, I could see why summer of 2025 was a big transition period. I saw a video of Clay Travis he was asking an audience, I don't know what the event was, but he asked the audience to name the most masculine Democrat leader. Now, I want you to do the same thing. In the comments, tell me, who do you think is most masculine Democrat leader? Because I thought, well, this will be easy. I thought to myself, it's not going to be hard. I'll just come up with an answer myself. I'm like, well, obviously, Tim, okay, no. Well, you've got Gavin, no. You've got AO, no, she's a woman. But at least you have got Bernie Sanders, no. Well, you've got Corey, no, you don't. Well, but they do have Adam, yeah, no. But they've got Jamie Rand, no. But but at least they've got Eric Swallow, no. So yeah, I guess they really don't have anybody. They don't have anybody. That's funny. Anyway, I saw a opinion piece on Fox News by Dan Gaynor, who is talking about the fact that the mainstream media, the liberal media, tried to destroy Trump, and they worked on it for years and years and years. And in the end, Trump destroyed the entire news business model and all their brands. So now he's defunding NPR and PBS. I mean, not totally, because they have other sources. CBS is paying him money and bending the knee to him, I guess, according to Hakeem Jeffries. Washington Post was getting rid of their most famous writers, and the ratings for the mainstream media are in the toilet, and Colbert has been canceled. And that's one person did that. One person. That's all Trump. Trump destroyed their entire industry. And he branded them as fake news. And he taught us all not to trust anything they say, which is a good lesson for the citizens. But master persuader, indeed. According to the Washington Post, the Smithsonian, I don't know if I believe this. I just saw this on X. The Smithsonian has removed Trump's impeachment exhibit because it wasn't a serious impeachment. So they kept the exhibit to prior other president impeachments, but they got rid of the reference to Trump's impeachment because it wasn't like a serious impeachment. It was more of just a political thing. Now, I don't know. Is that really why they did that? My guess is if you asked them, they would say they had some other reason for it, but that's the story. Trump has extended the Mexico trade deal for another 90 days, meaning that they're still going to pay a 25% fentanyl tariff, 25% on cars, 50% on steel, aluminum, and copper. But they've got another 90 days. Now, how much do I love Trump's negotiating technique, which is take your time. We'll be just as happy collecting the tariffs. Oh, no. Next Tuesday, whatever. Take your time. We'll just cash your checks. Now, obviously, Mexico doesn't directly pay the tariffs. That's the importing company. But Trump seems to be happy with tariffs as a weapon. And it seems to buy him time. So from the perspective of negotiating, it's working. Trump said something about India that I almost couldn't believe this was real, because he does have a habit of going hard at people that are not making him happy, even if he was best friends with them yesterday. So it's still within character, but apparently he doesn't have a trade deal with India, and he said, quote, "I don't care what India does with Russia." He's talking about trade. "I don't care what India does with Russia. Trump wrote on True Social. They can take their dead economies down together for all I care. They're dead economies. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world. So that's like, he loves Modi, and he's been, pro India as he should be, to have a little bulwark against China. But when it comes to negotiating tariffs, it goes, they can take their dead economies down together for all I care. That's basically just staging for the trade negotiations. He's setting the scene that he doesn't need the tariffs or a trade deal because India is irrelevant. So that's the good negotiating starting point. He was a little bit too pro-India before going into negotiations with India. So now he's going to make India essentially beg him to be their friend again, because I'm pretty sure India believes, rightly, that being friends with the United States economically and militarily is probably the best thing they could do for their future. So Trump is negging them, and he's going to make them beg to be his friend again, and they're going to have to prove it with some kind of a trade deal. So I kind of love this. The way he negotiates is it's a lesson every time you see it. You think it's a mistake if you don't understand how persuasion works or how negotiating works. But no, that's not a mistake. That is real good, getting the foundation ready for the negotiations. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I've got for today. You may have noticed that YouTube, I couldn't get to it through the Rumble Studio today. Little bug or hiccup. So I'm coming to you on two different devices. If you're listening on X, that's why the sound is a little bit tinny. And I'm talking to the locals, the subscribers privately. So I'm going to say goodbye to X so I can talk to the local subscribers privately. And thanks for joining, everybody, on X. All right. X is going away.